Quarter Century Rare Bonanza is delivering again because these prices are getting hot. But don't worry, because we're going to be going a few cards that you should be picking up before they soar in price. But for those that already have, we're going to start with one we've already had on the channel, and that is Infernity Archfiend. And we've been discussing this card for quite some time, and that is because ever since its release again in the Bonanza, many players are thinking that Konami is kind of showing us that in the future they're going to give Infernity's love either on the ban list with Launcher or in the theme of new support. And a lot of players are thinking the second. And we're actually going to see that reflected in its price, because when we first discussed Infernity Archfiend, it was about $5 to $6 a piece. But as we will see, it had quite the increase. And honestly, this is in quite a short time. So they're sitting at about $10 a piece. But there's only a couple at that price. And once those are sold out, they're right up to $15, which is 3 times the price we first discussed them at. So if you've been following the channel, then you know this was a card to be picking up. And again, thank you again for Saki for discussing this card with us quite some time ago. So give some love to Team Sakuratsu as well. But Infernity Archfiend is primed to go even higher. Again, with Launcher potentially going to be unlimited on that next list, or even new support. So if any of those things or both happen, then you know what is going to happen to the price of this card. So if you are an Infernity lover or don't have your copies yet, maybe you can get some a little cheaper than what we're seeing here. But honestly, these prices are only going to go one direction. But moving on to the second card, and another one we were discussing, is Ghost Cistern Spooky Dogwood Quarter Century Secret with the original art. And now, we discussed this card not too long ago when it was about that $11 mark, and when we look a little closer at the price as of now, we're seeing 12, 13, quickly again up to that $15 point, much like the Infernity Archfiend. And right now, players aren't even playing this. And yes, we do have the alternate art that you can be picking up closer to that $8 mark, but we know this is the artwork that you want to be having. It's the OG art. And again, once players start utilizing the Ghost Sisters, much like we saw a couple formats ago, with Snake Eyes at the full meta, we saw many players side decking 3 Ghost Cistern Spooky Dogwood, and we could return to that very quickly. With the time rules in Yu-Gi-Oh! And many players kind of abusing it, Ghost Cistern Spooky Dogwood is due for an increase in price for this version. And if once the players start side decking it, the prices will be spiking, as they've already done a little bit. So 11 to 12 and 13 might not seem like a lot, but since it is just a skip away from that 15 mark, and then as we scroll down, we're going to be 18s to the 20s, the price of this will go up very quickly, so you should definitely be having your copies sooner rather than later. Moving on to our third card is not one in the Bonanza, but is creeping into the metagame, and that is Gravekeeper's Inscription. And now we've hyped this card up many, honestly at this point it's been like a year or two ago, so it's had the reprint. That was awesome. And now it's back for revenge. So this card dropped after it had the reprint, and it was literally like less than $1. I kind of wish I would have double dipped and grabbed some more of these. And now we've seen it shoot all the way up to what it looks like about $7 to $8 a piece. And of course, the majority of this is because Jesse Cotton, as well as his team, just won the 3v3 YCS. And yes, this was tacked a little before the 3v3, but them winning it just solidified its placement in player side decks. So either copy, because again, it did just get a reprint, is about $5 to $7. The other ones are slightly cheaper, but they're about over that $5 mark. And these sit into that $7 and $8 a piece, basically back where they were quite some time ago, and players love to see it. So Gravekeeper's Inscription, this is something that you were wanting to pick up. They are a little bit higher right now, but if you have them, definitely good for you. And now we're going to do something a little different, so please bear with me, and it is Guess That Market Watch. I'll give you some stats, we'll wait a second, and then I'll show you the card that we were talking about. So it'll just be this card, and one a little bit later in the Market Watch, but, you know, just a little tryout so we can have a little fun. And today's card we'll be discussing is a certain trap out of the Bonanza series that is Quarter Century Secret Rare. It tributes monsters, reveals the opponent's hand, and destroys spells or traps. And right now, if you are looking around or know much about this card, it is sitting at about $20 a piece. And that card is none other than Eradicator Epidemic Virus. And again, for the viewers of the channel, especially for those who are part of the Member Market Watch, you will know that we were discussing this card quite some time ago when it was closer to that $11 to $13 mark. And again, as we just said, it has gone up in price. So once we start looking lower, yes, we were seeing it at about that $11 mark, went up to about that 12 or 13s, and then it starts to rise quickly. And now if you want a single copy, they're like $20 a piece, okay? So don't say we didn't warn you on this one. And again, $20 quickly turns into $23, $25, and if this card gets used at all to any capacity in the current or future metagame, it will go much higher, much like the next card we're going to be discussing. But Eradicator Epidemic Virus is a card that you should have already been getting, especially once we've been talking about it. I believe it was even on our top 10 for Bonanza, because this card was clearly going to be a pricing card. We saw the secrets were fetching a fair price quite some time ago, and it is only to be expected that these premium holographics will be even higher as time goes on. So again, $11 not too long ago, all the way up to $20, $25. And again, this is just the beginning of what to be expected. And once it's played in the metagame, we'll see it go even higher. And now that moves us to its brother, and I'm not going to make you guess on this one, and that is Deck Devastation Virus. And I was a little surprised of how fast this actually picked up. I didn't even really get some copies for myself, and I wish I would have, because we're looking at literally like $30 a piece to $40 a piece to $50 a piece. All right then. And literally they were like 15, 16, 17 not too long ago. That chart, these charts have been a little messed up on TCG Player. Please fix these. They're a little wacky. But yeah, they were literally like last week 17s, a couple weeks ago 15 to 14 range. And now they're 30 to 40 plus. It's insane. So if you were looking at Deck Devastation Virus, TCG is not your friend. Maybe go out to your buddies, pick up some from them. Maybe your locals has it for a little bit better options. Definitely have some other options out there. But again, this is to be expected. It's a virus in the quarter century secret rare. And as we know, when viruses hit the format, they hit them hard enough where people want them banned. And Deck Devastation is going to be one of those cards in the future, because as we know, a lot of times a lot of these decks are fueled by monsters with low attack. So when Deck Devastation Virus, and it's an easy GG. So I would say be picking up your copies if you can get them cheaper, because these are a little absurd. I'm not going to tell you to be picking these up. That's a little crazy. And now moving to the next card is Deep Sea Diva. And now this is an interesting card. It has not moved too much in price. I think they were like $5 not too long ago. Yeah, that's what it was looking like. So they're about $5 to $7 right now, 6 to 7, and again quickly turns into 8, 9s. That's the thing about a lot of these quarter centuries. You'll see some low prices, so you'll kind of have a little false sense of security, but once a playset or two playsets are bought out, you're looking at a $5 increase on a lot of these cards, and sometimes that's doubling the price right then and there. So getting in early is pretty key, pretty much for all these quarter centuries, as we're learning, because once they're out of stock, and the prices just spike. So Deep Sea Diva being one of those cards that, yes, it is actually played fairly well in Edison, but we could actually see this become a normal summon in the future. It's amazing support for any of the Sea Serpent water decks, and in the future, Konami could give quite the target to the Diva, if not a searchable way for it to get to your hand quickly. And if any of those things happen, or if people just start playing Diva, or if these even just got bought out, the prices of this card will go up. And again, Deep Sea Diva being kind of a fan favorite, I think that's almost guaranteed in the near future. And the next card is another untapped market that we've discussed before, and that is Deck Lockdown. And now the ultra rare of this card is actually fairly cheap. They're like $1.70, $1.74. Again, once you find one seller with multiple of them, you're actually not paying that shipping cost. So that's actually pretty nice. But once you get down to page 2 or 3, we're going to have a couple walls of China, as Fresh calls them, and I love that term, because there's about 142 here at about $2.50, and then on the next page we're looking at about $3 a piece. So not an insane jump from what we're looking at right now. I guess like once you get $1 plus, that's pretty nice, but we've seen this card climb up close to about $5 a piece, and that was like probably over a year ago when we were discussing this card. And unless this card gets put in a rarity collection scenario, we're looking for an increase in this card's price in the near future, especially if players ever start really side deck teching this to the extent we see them using other cards. And if this card ever becomes a 3 of in the meta side decks, you can guarantee that the prices of the ultra rare of Deck Lockdown will soar well above the $5 mark. And that brings us to our last 2 cards, which are some of the cards I am most excited for out of the entire Bonanza series. And now I feature them on our membership market watch when they're actually a little cheaper than they are now, but I assure you these cards are going to spike in price. So to keep it fair to the members, we are going to be doing Guess That Market Watch. And now this is a water card out of Quarter Century Bonanza that actually returns to your hand, as well as sending waters from the deck to the graveyard. And at one point these were about $8 a piece, and then they quickly went up to 10s. But if you want a singular copy of this card right now, they're about $14 to $15 a piece, and they will go up very, very quickly because this is a card you want to play 3 of. And to be fair to the members out there, I'm not going to reveal it on this market watch, but it will be on the very next one. And we'll follow it up with its friend that is also in Quarter Century Bonanza as a Quarter Century Secret Rare, and this card is banned and cannot be used as synchro material. And now this is another card that when we were talking about it, they were about $5 to $6 a piece, but as you see here, if you want a single copy, they're anywhere between $12, $13, $14, even as high as $15 a piece. And the price of this card can go even higher very, very quickly. But if you know the name of these cards, definitely comment them down below for all the other watchers to see. But we will be revealing them during the next market watch, because again, a lot of these cards have been saved for the membership video, because I love to support those who support the channel. And if you want to see some more cards before they spike in price, definitely check out our last market watch, because there are other untapped gems in there, much like we saw with the Infernity Archfiend that has already spiked in price. But as always guys, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it nerds.